Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. How are you? Oh, I'm so glad you guys got to join. Yes, be a bougie auntie, but don't drink when you're underage. So, speaking of drink, I have McBride Sisters today, Sauvignon Blanc, which actually, for the first time in forever, I actually, shout out to Rachel, my best friend, gave me a birthday present. I'm a gift card to McBride Sisters. So I have like a few of their wines. And then I went down to Happy Cork, if you live in Brooklyn, which is this Black-owned wine shop, super cute, and bought some of their wines. So I'm all set for like the next hopefully 5 months, trying to space it out. So I will tell y'all beforehand, as I think about this now, what I'm drinking, which one of you suggested, which is a great idea. Hi, Liberated Life. Thank you. Y'all should have seen my hair an hour ago. It didn't look like this. It looked crazy, and people at work were just like, to which I just kind of looked at them like, well, if we weren't understaffed right now, I could look normal. So yeah, happy Friday. So I figured today, so this wine glass was actually most of the stuff that y'all see me with, because I'm notoriously cheap, is gifts. So this was a gift years ago when I graduated law school from one of my best friends and her husband, which was really nice. It was a pair. And then when I moved here, I had it for all these years. And when I moved here, I accidentally broke the other one. So I'm so sad. So I only have this one. I used to live in New Orleans, so that's why it has the fleur-de-lis on it. Can you see it? The glare is there. But yeah. So, child, the hair lives its own life. She does what she wants to do. I've learned to leave her alone many years ago. So I figured today on this Good Friday, first, get this out of the way because I forgot to do it last week, and I like to keep my word. So I didn't tell y'all last week I was like officially moving it. So then I popped up back on Friday. But next we're going to switch to Thursdays, because by Friday I figured, since we're all slowly in varying forms going outside, I figured you'll want your Friday back. And if you live in New York, we are officially going outside after a year and a half, which is going to be interesting. So we are, hi, Kareen. And thank you earlier, Kareen. I really appreciate that. So we are all, we'll move this to Thursday. So we'll do Thursdays at 7 p.m. And I know for the UK people, Thursdays is not the best. So when I finally do get a day off, I'll do like a middle of the day. So it's a normal time for you, because I appreciate you guys staying up, which really means a lot to me. So, Thirsty Thursdays. Hey, James. Yes. This is actually really good. So highly recommend. So today I figured, my allergies, as I have bought these flowers. So today I figured, since we are getting out of the restrictions of the panini, not out of the panini, I kind of wanted to talk about the, thank you, James. So if you haven't watched the One Big Happy Life versus Dave Ramsey comparison, it is not a lawsuit. I figured I would pull like a YouTube and be like, did I fool you? But, I actually compared their two methods, since I've tried both. And this is outside of my feelings about Dave as a person, child, because we covered, his lawsuit and his foolishness. But yeah, so you guys should watch that, because I've actually learned a lot from paying off my 6-figure debt in the past year and a half. So I know I promised you guys a video on that. So I am going to do, we are in May, so I owe you my student loan update this month. So that will get done. It's always the first week, technically. We're still in the first week, so I'm not late. So that will probably get uploaded by Friday. But yeah, so I figured that we would talk about today surviving the panorama. Because one of the things that I realized to myself, so much happened, like in the world, in America, but particularly in New York in the past year, that sometimes when I think about it, I don't want to forget, because it's just wild. Like, it's just a bunch of nonsense. So I figured we'd go month by month, kind of approximately, and have a little story time and a chit chat, and y'all can call in. And then, yeah. So James said, here, I finally learned how to like pin the comments. I'd like to learn more about how you cope living in such a small square footage for so long. Child, it's not normal. There's nothing normal about being stuck in, I think my current apartment is 200 square feet. It is in a nicer building, which is why I moved, because technically like there's a rooftop, there's like other amenities that I wanted. My old apartment was like 300 square feet, which is still tiny, but was significantly bigger than some of my friends' apartments. So that was interesting. So we're going to talk about all of that, child. So let me see. I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm going to sneeze, so I'm just going to pinch my nose. Yes, for your 21st birthday, yes, try out one of the Black-owned wines. So yes, 200 square feet. People in New York are like, oh yeah, that's normal. If it wasn't a mess, I would just turn y'all around and show y'all, but it's a mess. From sitting here, I can see my bed, the bathroom, and the kitchen. Yep. Yep, it's shameful. So yeah. So basically, I'm gonna need some tips when it comes to this exercise and losing weight thing. Oh, girl, we can talk about that. I have a video on that because y'all know I lost 30 pounds. I gained 10 of it back. 15 maybe. In the pandemic, it's down to 10. I lost 5 pounds, thank God. But yeah, so we're gonna talk about all that. So the first thing, so the pandemic happened, for context. Shutdown happened, which if these dates are wrong, because people love sometimes to come and be like, this specific tiny minuscule thing is incorrect, which I'm very big on correction. So I'm always like, oh yeah, you're right. But I believe it was May 16th. And I know that because my birthday is March 23rd, which was the week before my 29th birthday, that New York shut down. And I was like, okay, but my birthday though, mind you, foolishly, before this happened, the month before, my boyfriend was going on a work trip to Spain. So I was like, oh, I'm going to come. Like, it's going to be great. Because mind you, I still had 6-figure debt. This was when I was still a little bit delusional and was like, but I work for this money. I'm going to spend the money. So that was good. That caused me to not spend said dumb money because we were stuck in the house. So for context, my boyfriend and I, and it makes sense. So like we quarantined together, but we've always lived on the same street, child. So technically speaking, we at least had 2 places to go, but like during quarantine, it was literally go buy the groceries and don't go out of your house. It was very surreal. So when it happened, everybody's job, and let me know if this falls off. I love this top, but the one thing, like the shoulder, I need to take in the sleeves because they're a little bit big. One of the things, a day in the life. Yes, I need to do one of those. I owe y'all a lot of things, which I need to, I blame corporate, but I need to just like assert myself and be like, hey, we have kind of like set hours for a reason, boo. So when that happened, everyone's job was like, oh, this is going to last for 2 weeks. This is going to be 2 weeks. Everyone kept saying, oh, 2 weeks. We're going to be inside and it's going to be fine. So everybody kind of took it as like, okay, let's work from home for 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks quickly turned into months and months. I would say at first, outside of my birthday being completely like down the drain, I didn't really mind. I was like, okay, it's fine. Like we're hanging out, we're like doing work all day. By the end of March, it became very uncomfortable because as you see, I'm on this couch. Y'all remember my old couch that I used to have. It was a futon and it was broken. So I used to sit there and do my work on like this broken futon. And it was really nice. I don't think anybody could tell that it was broken. Someone offered one time in the comments, were like, can I buy you a new couch? And I was like, do they know that this is broken? How do they know this? But yeah, so it was not for like sitting for long periods of time. In April, like towards the end of April, unfortunately, with, the unjust murders of Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, then things took like a very different turn in New York. It was like, okay, all of y'all are inside and pure nonsense is going on in the country. So when that happened, come March with George Floyd and everything like that, people, of course, rightfully so, started to protest. It became, okay, you're going to be in your apartment, but also depending on where you worked, it became very uncomfortable at work. So for context, so I feel like I have never expressly said it, but I hint at it sometimes. I used to work at this French company, which we could do a whole video on that. The French are very different. And I'm just going to politely say that. And one particular difference, which is not a positive difference, is in France, you are legally not allowed to identify by your race, which is very different than in America, which, honey, we're born and they categorize all of us. The idea being that if you identify as your race, everybody has to be French or not French. Okay, so how do you explain that to a whole office full of New Yorkers who are now going through a whole social justice movement where everyone else, all the executives are like, we're not talking about this. We're not going to speak about this. We can't speak about this. So fast forward to June, where this has all ratcheted up. And for context, I have a sociology degree. DE&I issues, particularly social justice issues, mean a lot to me. Like, I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. I'm like, oh, y'all have been protesting. That's lovely. I'm glad you were finally doing something. Like, I have the ripped stockings for all of it to show it. So then basically we went to a meeting. By we, I mean all of the Black employees at said company, to which the CEO, in all of his Frenchness, said all lives matter to all the Black employees when we tried to tell him like, hey, like we just needs to be addressed, like people are uncomfortable, etc. It was very, very awkward and awful. And I had to deal with it because I'm the attorney. So the attorney is always like, well, who's the most senior person in this call? It's me. To which at that point, the day before, when I had went like running, the only thing you could do outside was like go for a run, running through the park. This police officer followed me, my boyfriend, while we were running. And y'all know I wake up like way too early. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning, followed us, drove down the wrong side of the street and like turned the sirens on and all. And I was like, do you think I'm stealing? So, like, how am I? Boo-boo, it's the middle of the summer. I have shorts and a sports bra on. What particularly am I doing? It was awful. So this happened literally, I think that happened on like a Thursday. And then like the next day, Friday, we had the meeting and the CEO said it, to which the manager started crying. I was just like, you know what? Like, I don't have like the patience. So the whole thing is awful. On top of this, we're living in this tiny square footage. So I'm like, okay, we're continuing, we're going. At the end of June, maybe July, I think maybe the week before July, I had realized, listen, it was bad. And he apologized afterwards, which he sent us this awful apology because someone reamed him out and was like, you can't say that. That's awful. And he was like, oh, I was just saying a practical of the matter. Like he didn't get it until he got it, which I understand that. Like he was very ignorant to the fact. And like it was just awful. It was just like a very bad experience. Which there was like no rectifying it for me. I was like, My boss tried to be like, oh, he doesn't know. And I was like, if you don't know, then don't say nothing. Like you set this meeting like an hour before. So child, it was too much. So when that happened, I think that was like the end of June, maybe like a week before 4th of July. In New York, and I saw this happen in other cities too, in New York, all of a sudden, like Disney level grade, for those of you that are also like from Florida, I'm from Miami, or have like, I used to live in Orlando, I went to UCF, so like I'm very familiar with Disney. My dad is obsessed with Disney World. I've been to Disney World many times. Back when it used to only cost $100 for a yearly pass. What? If you're a Florida resident. So basically Disney has these obnoxious, like easily hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of fireworks every night. Expensive fireworks. For context, fireworks in New York City are illegal. They do not sell them. You cannot buy them. I've been here 4th of July. The only fireworks you ever see are when they are organized and they're getting set off. That's the only time. No one is doing fireworks in their backyard. You will get arrested. Okay. Next thing you know, the week before 4th of July, fireworks are popping off. I live, because I'm a hood adjacent person, and there's always extra police precincts in the hood, a block in front of the police precinct. Next thing I know is fireworks going off. And the first day I was like, oh, this is cute. Disney level fireworks. Yes. Every night for no joke, 4 to 5 weeks. To the point where by day 4, I'm pretty sure like we had sleep deprivation. So like they would start at like 8 o'clock. Like, okay, the fireworks going off. Like 8 o'clock, like whatever. You're not like going off. You're not like, where are we going? Like we're all inside. Okay, 9 o'clock came, 10 o'clock came, 11 o'clock came, fireworks still going off. 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 a.m. in the morning, the fireworks are going off. And every time you would kind of fall asleep, like, okay, I'm drifting, it's done. 10 minutes would pass and then boom, firework would go off. So then I started getting like heart palpitations, which I'm sure everyone did. It is terrorism. It is noise terrorism. So that was the point I was gonna get to. Pure noise terrorism for 4 to 5 weeks throughout what seemed to me a lot of Black and brown neighborhoods, to which I then, like the few times I went outside to like go get my groceries, I'm like, wait, the boxes of this are in front of the police precinct. So either all of a sudden y'all are afraid of doing your job and coming outside and telling people like, hello, you cannot be outside with these fireworks, or you're setting them off. I'm very confused. People started showing videos, which I wish I would have saved one. I don't know where it is on this phone. People started showing videos of like unmarked cars just selling tons and tons of fireworks to people, mostly kids, of course. And people are like, well, they shouldn't be setting them off. They're children. They've been inside for however many months now. They're bored, of course. And also those fireworks didn't come from New York because they're too expensive. They don't exist here. It was awful. It was so bad. Yeah, it happened in Philly. It happened also, I think Chicago. I had friends in Chicago. I had friends in LA. And New York was literally like block by block, and Brooklyn and the Bronx. It was just so bad. Then it started like there were helicopters too. So they would just like shine the lights in your apartment. And I was like, so we just not sleeping. Like we're done with this. Okay, cool. Mind you, this whole time I'm still in like 300 square feet. So I'm like, okay, cool. At that point, my company, because they had made a grave error and other things had also happened, and I had kind of like riled them up a little bit. They, people like all types of people were like, hey, we're clearly not going back in the office, because at least the company I was at, and I think other companies, every month they were like, oh, I think we're going in the office soon, child. People were so delusional until like September. People did not accept, like, no, boo, like you're stuck inside. They refused to accept it. They really thought like we're going inside. So every time somebody would ask and be like, hey, like we need desks. Like we cannot, like my futon is broken. Like we cannot sit on this. Like we need a desk. So my company, thank God, because Google and Facebook did it. So tech, like I worked at a small startup. So once like Google and Facebook do something, everyone else is kind of like, oh, fine. The Richies did it. I guess we have to do it. So they gave us money to buy, I think we got $200 or $300. It was a good amount of money. So I got myself like a nice desk and a nice chair, which is not in this apartment because this apartment is smaller, but this apartment is way nicer. So one of the things, and I'm sorry, like if you have a like rodent phobia, I would just click out of this for a second because I don't want to freak you out. So one of the things, exactly, and this is exactly what it was, because they wanted people to go to sleep and stop protesting. That's exactly the reason, which I'm glad you brought that up because my mind had moved on past that. They were tired of people like protesting. So they're like, oh, we're just going to light all this crap up. It was awful. It was, and I felt the people I felt the most bad for, I felt bad for myself because I was like, I feel like my heart's coming out of my chest, but I felt bad for like the elderly people and the people with kids. Like, how are they sleeping? They must not be sleeping, which was awful. So one of the things that happened in New York, which New York, again, if you have a rodent like phobia, please click out of it because I feel really bad. And because I have a phobia and child, but New York is not clean. Having lived in Miami, hi, Cece Funk One, how are you? Having lived in Miami my whole life, Miami proper, like South Beach, is not the cleanest. It's clean now. Miami is a different place, y'all. But Miami is pretty clean. Orlando, like UCF, very clean. New York is dirty, child. I live in New Orleans. New Orleans is not the cleanest. So, but still, nothing like New York. New York is just like raw sewage sometimes in the street. It is dirty. So one would think like, oh, well, if we're all inside, shouldn't New York be cleaner? Yeah, that's not exactly what happened. So what happened was, since apparently the restaurants closed, the rats eat the food that the restaurant throws out, or they're in the restaurant, child. Anyways, they didn't have anything to eat. So what the rats started to do was, they're smart. They started going around to like residential, like housing complexes. So I lived in this very cute house, apartment complex. It only had 5 apartments in it, which is why I chose it. I was like, I want to see all my neighbors' faces. These mega complexes creep me out. Like, I want to live here. So the way it was shaped was like a U, and then it had a little outside like alleyway where the garbage was. Okay. That's fine. Everything was good. Everything was clean. I lived there for 2 years, never saw a mouse, never saw a roach, never saw a silverfish in my apartment, never saw anything. Pandemic comes. So the rats, I guess, are looking for new places to eat. They start going in our trash. So I lived on the 3rd floor. There were only 3 floors. You can hear them moving around at night. So I was like, what the heck is this? The apartment, unfortunately, the one downside of the apartment was it had steam heat, which steam heat, you can't control the heat. The building controls the heat. So my apartment used to be like 80 degrees. That apartment, child, NYC be so rough sometimes. That apartment was hot. So like even in the winter, unless it was sub 20 degrees, the windows were open. So in the summer, the windows were open. The AC is on, but the windows have to be open just to regulate the temperature. It was a mess, but it was a large apartment at around 300 square feet. Child, mess. So you start hearing like creatures. So I'm like, oh, this is like, it's creeping me out. It's creatures in here. One day, unbeknownst to me that the creatures have now gotten bold, I go downstairs to throw my trash. I lift up the lid. Who is sitting there on top of the garbage staring at me with 2 beady eyes? The damn rat. First of all, I've never screamed out loud in my life. My neighbor heard me, and mind you, New York people are so funny. She heard me scream. She's like, are you okay? But of course, she didn't come outside. She's like, if a murder is happening, don't want to see it, don't want to witness it. I'm just going to call the police from inside. And I was like, I find there's a rat. And I'm like screaming. So then I call like the landlord and I'm like, what? There's like rats, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, oh, it's probably from, mind you, I lived on, for context, I probably should say this. I lived on top of a fried chicken place. I did live on top of a fried chicken place, but there had never been rats before. So they were like, oh, it's the restaurant. And I was like, I have lived here for 2 years and we have never had a rodent problem. Like, it's not the restaurant. And also there are less people going in. Like, it's not the restaurant, boo. It's this something going on. So they wanted to be exactly, call him again. When I tell you I almost died, I almost died. So I'm sitting there and they're like trying to go back and forth with me, like, we're going to treat it, whatever. So the woman that came to do the pest control was this very nice elderly woman. And she was like, I told them, like, super New Yorker, child, they're just trying to blame everybody but them damn selves. Super New Yorker. And she was like, I told them that they need to get heavy metal lids and like metal cans so that way the rats can't go into them. They had like the flimsy plastic. She's like, they don't listen to me, blah, blah. So I took that and I was like, oh, watch me and them. I'm not about to pay my rent. Watch me and them. Because at that point, people had started stop paying their rent. And I was like, I've been paying you. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, the rent had started dropping. The rent had started going down. I was like, I ought to move out on them. So, right. Johnny. Child, I told you I'm broke. I make 6 figures, but I don't spend my 6 figures. I was probably like a good contact. So y'all know goes to my student loans. But child, the thing was huge. So I'm telling them and I'm like, listen, and I'm putting Esquire, Stephanie, blah, blah, comma, Esquire at the end, like, to like, I'm not playing with y'all. Y'all fix this damn problem. They treat the thing, the rat is still there. Now, mind you, there are only 5 apartments in my building. And then the attached building, there are only 5 in there. So what did people do? Because I'm not the only one that saw the rodents, our new neighbors. So what did people do once they realized, like, oh, there's creatures outside? People stopped throwing the trash away. So you had to walk down a stairs to then go outside to throw the trash away. So my neighbors, which God bless them, like, I get it, you're afraid, but honey, at least throw it outside, started leaving their trash in the downstairs of the building. So then we got roaches. Yep. And I was like, what? There has never even been a silverfish in this whole building. So I'm like, oh no, like we're over here in like, this is hell. I was like, we're over here in hell. We can't go outside. There's noise terrorism going on. There are now creatures living in here with me after I paid all this money for this apartment. I was like, oh my gosh, it was awful. It was awful. And so the more I threatened them, the more they were like, oh, well, you know, we're fixing it. We're sending somebody. And I was like, the woman told you how to fix the issue. You need to get the damn metal trash can. I don't like, what are you guys going to come? They started spraying my apartment every week. And I was like, what is the purpose of this? Like, y'all are wasting money because you want to be cheap. Like, I'm at this point, I'm sure you've paid more than what the metal cans are worth. Just on the principle of the matter, they wanted to be annoying. Exactly. They were so annoying. So finally, child, worse than that. Because at least I was like, and they came in, they're like, oh, your apartment is so clean. And I was like, yes, yet we are having this issue because now you have caused people to be terrified of throwing out the garbage. So at that point, I was like, okay, I have to move, which is why I moved here. To be honest, that apartment is probably almost twice the size of this apartment. But this apartment is in a brand new building. They literally, sometimes you guys are like, oh, I hear a high-pitched noise in the video. That's because they're vacuuming the hallway. It's clean, honey. It's clean. It's not a bug, a creature, nothing inside. And I was like, if we're going to do a panorama, I can't do it hearing like critters. So that brought us to like June, July, August, I guess. Like all through that, I was like, this is just getting a mess. So I'm trying to think, make sure I don't forget any of the important things. So at that point, my company was like, oh, you know, they never called it an issue, but they're like, we can do better on DE&I. And I said, all right, yeah, been told y'all that. So they actually paid for me to get my certification from Cornell. So a DE&I certification, which I was like, great, that's awesome. So which was lovely. So then I started helping them out with that. And then I was like, oh, but I'm doing all this work for free. And, you know, we're still in this like panini and like these people are over here, like they don't know what they're doing. And, you know, I think I'm going to get a new job. What are they seeing people living in? Oh, yeah. Child. You should see some of these apartments. Some of these apartments, to be honest, you can't even blame the person because the apartment itself is decrepit. Like, you see how you see like actual new walls and things like that? I've been in some people's apartments where the apartment itself is so old that the price we'll take a side tangent. The price that people in New York used to pay, and I say used to because now the price is a little cheaper for an apartment, is wild for like what you were getting. So my old apartment cost me $1,500, which sounds like a lot of money. In New York is like very cheap. I was like, oh, it's a great price. Like, this is great. I had a friend, Shayna, y'all know Shayna, my best friend. Her first apartment, which Twinny will tell you this, child, the apartment was probably the size of the one I'm in now, tiny little apartment. It was so old. At one point, they called her one day and told her, oh, there's asbestos in the walls. So like, you need to go somewhere for a weekend because we need to gut the whole kitchen. When she moved in, we both had looked at it and was like, well, this seems to be the nicest thing, at least in this neighborhood, but it don't look all that way up to code. I've seen some of my friends' apartments where like the building is shaking. Like, I don't know who built the building. The building looked like it was built in 1907. New York literally has tenement buildings. So I think the one good thing about the panorama is basically they have to do nicer things for people. And by nicer, a luxury apartment in New York is basically a normal apartment in the South, minus the pool, child. Pool? There's no pool here. Are you friends with any of your neighbors? So those neighbors were funny. There was a set of kids, kids always cause problems. And the kids would basically at night, like sneak out of the apartment and then sneak back in and basically wake everybody up because there was only five. There were only 5 units, and then one neighbor used to get pissed and call the police on them sometimes. So, child, no, those neighbors did not. I talked to everybody, but child, they did not talk to each other. And I didn't know how to nicely tell them, like, who the hell is not throwing their trash out? Like, one of you, please. I will throw it out for you, but like the trash cannot sit here. Yes. So the price of the apartment is like fantastic for New York. So to be honest, yep. Flee, child. I'm fleeing too. My goal is next year to move back down to Miami, end of next year, because child, I cannot. Slumlords. The New York landlords get sued all day. Like if you ever move to New York or you live in New York, highly recommend. I've learned my lesson to Google the landlord and see if they have lawsuits against them, so we don't have to deal with somebody. Because child, it's just a mess. But yeah. So the company paid for my D&I certification, so I'm like helping with that. Sorry, at that point we're still inside, and then everybody was basically like, people with much more sense than me were basically like, you know what? We're not going back like to the office. I bet you for the rest of the year. So a bunch of my friends, including Shayna moved to Phoenix. A bunch of my friends started moving. They're like, it's so much cheaper somewhere else. And also New York had become like this they're like 50, people I feel like are very split about this, like 70-30. New York had become a very somewhat desolate place. So some people are like, oh, people are lying. Everything is normal, blah, blah. And I'm like, you're a damn lie. Child, I was walking through, where did I go? I had to go to go see my grandma. My grandma lives in Westchester. I had to go through Midtown. Child, empty. I was like, I've never been the only one on the street in the middle of the day. This is so random. So New York took on this very like eerie feeling to me. Like New York is full of people. So it felt like you're kind of on a movie set where there's nobody else. And you're just like, okay, this is crazy. This is a little weird. It's a little strange. Oh, I see. Florida is a wild place. I'm just going to be honest. Miami is a little better. I always tell you I'm from Miami. I'm not from Florida. Because having lived in Orlando and went to UCF, I'm like, Florida man is a very specific thing for a very specific reason. It is a very, very weird place sometimes. And very red. And child, people are a little foolish. It was weird. Like we were in an apocalyptic movie. It was. And that I wish I had like just for myself taken some videos of it. I've seen some people have some videos of it on YouTube because it's hard to explain to other people. Other people are like, oh yeah, we're quarantining or whatever, but they're not used to the full on crowdedness that was New York. Like all day, every day. Like you're just used to, like, how do you say this? People always being in your periphery, which you kind of get used to. Like, even if you don't speak to people, you're just like, okay, this is my life. Like, I see all these people, like, oh, I'm people watching. I see, oh, I like that outfit. Oh, I like this. Oh, look at this person on the train, like trying to spread holy water on somebody. Like, New York is just like always something going on. And it just became a very shocking thing. It became a very, very shocking thing. Only a little foolish. I love New Orleans. My criteria for where I live, like, hopefully the majority of my life and like buying a home and like all of that, I want to live by a beach. Listen, the island gal needs a beach, and there is no beach in New Orleans. There is a beach in Alabama, and child, I'm not that, bold in my life. All of my friends from the South are like, it's fine. And I can't get over it. They like go out and I'm like, y'all are just brave. Like I'm too afraid. I'm too afraid. But I love New Orleans is my favorite city in all of the US, even more so than New York. So, you live in speaking of Alabama, look at that. I live in Alabama. Nothing really changed for me, at least. Yeah. So like even my family and friends in Miami, they were kind of living kind of normal. Like, okay, I'll put a mask on and I'll go about my business. In New York, it was like all of a sudden things literally close at 10 p.m., which was a very weird. Things don't close. The train closed, which was also, where were you going? So like the train didn't need to be running, but it was a weird thing. Like, what if something happened and I need to go somewhere? Well, I'm stuck here. New York is an island. So you're stuck here on this island. And it was just a very like eerie, desolate, like here we are in this never ending listless place. And we're going to sit in 200 square feet. I will say like having my boyfriend there like made it better because it's another human to talk to and be like, okay, cool. It was a very interesting test, I would say. And I think a lot of people would agree of our relationship, like how much time you want to spend with this person. So I think like we learned a lot about each other, having been together 3 years. Is different to be in someone's face for an amount of time that you have never been in somebody's face before. So that was interesting. That was very, very interesting. Hey, Chelsea girl. Yes, it was like yes, it was completely agree. It was just very weird. I did cook a lot at first. So that was great. At first, like, I'm going to cook all these fancy things. So you have nothing to do until you realize like, wait. My grocery bill is higher than my former going out bill. Can't do that. Got to cut that down. So yeah, I would say now that we are fine. So New York, for context, apparently it was supposed to be July and now it's in 2 weeks in May. Child. Apparently we're going outside and apparently they have lifted all, if not most of the restrictions, which I don't agree with that. I agree with going outside. I think they should still require people to wear the mask. Like, I don't understand people's like big hesitation about the mask. I don't find it that annoying, to be honest. I really don't. So the thing in New York, you know why I didn't order a lot of food? And this is actually a lot of the restaurants sadly closed down. Because like they didn't have enough customers, especially like where I live. Because I've always lived in Brooklyn, except for when I live like in Westchester with my grandparents. They closed down, so like you couldn't even order any food. So it was like, well, you better learn how to. Well, I know how to cook, but like if you want new things, you better learn how to make the new things, or you're gonna sit there hungry. So I learned how to. I made ramen. The first one was bad. I'm gonna be honest. The second one, it was great. It was great. But yeah, it was definitely very interesting. Actually, I forgot to send y'all the invite if you want to tell your panini stories. So yeah, so now that we're going outside, I'm excited. I have realized, and I think some people have said it too, I think the social skills are probably lacking. So for context, like my boyfriend and I where did we go? Like a couple weeks ago to a bar, and this couple, God bless them. You could tell like they had just been in the house by themselves. It's like middle-aged couple. They were kind of just staring, and I was like, why are they staring at us? It's kind of weird. And then they finally said something, and I was like, oh, they just want to talk to other people. They're just like, I just been looking at you all day for over a year, and I'm kind of over it. They were really sweet, but I think like as a society, particularly people in New York, our social skills are probably like down the drain. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Hope y'all listen. And that's exactly what I'm afraid of. I'm like, I get like, okay, of course, like we have to open. I agree with that. Like, this is not normal. I think part of the things that a lot of people haven't talked about is what are the psychological effects of putting people in tiny closets for a year? I don't think it's good. You know, I like the amount of violence people have probably committed against each other is probably very high. I don't think that like we're all the way there. Some therapy is probably needed, but I also don't think that you should send everybody outside with no mask. Like, what's the purpose of not putting the mask on? The mask is fine. Like, the mask is not going to harm you. Like, I still to this day don't understand everybody got so, not everybody, but why some people took it upon themselves to get so upset about the mask. Besides, like when you're running full speed outside at 5 o'clock in the morning and nobody's around, like, I mean, just put the mask on. What does it matter? All right, I'm gonna add Jace. Yeah, I'm just still gonna wear mine. It doesn't bother me. Like, I don't understand I'm gonna censor myself this time because apparently our last live got denied. They demonetized the last live, and I was like, what did they say?
Let me choose my words.
I even got it like you can press to have like an actual human review, and they were like, no, still denied. And I was like, but what?
Dang.
Ciao.
rush.
Mhm.
Um, and it was literally during that week where they decided to shut down the park. But like the week before, they were doing all these like COVID responses and all that other stuff. They would send us out a new thing every week. And the week before I'd left, they sent one out and they were just like, um, there are cases in Florida, but it's very few cases. We're watching it and everything. And I'm sitting here reading this and I'm like, the second those cases were confirmed, it should have been lights out for everyone.
Yeah.
And like, I was just like, y'all are cutting a little too close. So in the middle of that vacation, they decided to close everything. They deleted all of our shifts. For some of us that were full time, they added shifts back in of us, like maintenance stuff.
Mhm.
But for the most part, the park wasn't open and that type of thing. I skipped all of my shifts. That's why I needed the doctor's note. I was just like, nope, I got to ride the bus. No.
Yeah.
And so April goes by, nothing. May goes by, there's a little rumblings or whatever, but there's nothing confirmed. Last week of May, girl. Insert theme park name here. Looking to reopen. They told the press before they told us that they wanted to reopen the park.
Again, Florida is a wild, wild place. A wild place.
Wild. And that exploded. And a lot of people were just like, no ma'am, me included. I get a call from my boss. And my boss is just like, hey, so I know you've seen the news. And like I said in last week's episode, I have a little bit of a reputation in my department for being the SaaS Master 5000. It is a reputation that I am very proud of because,
Not a SaaS master. You model. Hi, DRTV. You're up late. See, look at the UK. The UK is up sometimes.
Like you said that on that one video, I can't remember which one, Virgos have a lot of gumption. We most certainly have a lot of gumption. And so we're talking. He's asking me if I'm willing to come back. And I'm just like, sir, have you seen everything that I've been saying? And now obviously I'm saying this in my head, but I'm just like, I don't feel comfortable coming back to the park until I see your little precautions at work. And then I'll think about it. Next week call. We had a time for you to come back. If you don't want to come back during that time, we're going to have to terminate you.
I'm smelling some money. This is not legal advice. Remember, this is for entertainment purposes only. I'm smelling a little lawsuit.
But I just kind of sat there and I was like shocked, and I'm just like, and it's one of those things because it's like, I know the way that this company treats people. Like I've been a victim of it and I bared witness to it for 5 years. But it's one thing to like prepare. It's one thing to be braced for it and for it to actually happen to you. And so I'm just sat there and I'm shook. And mind you, June, because literally not even like 2 weeks later, Florida's numbers started skyrocketing. They spiked out of, well, I don't want to say nothing. I don't want to say nowhere because we know where the numbers came from. Yeah. But it was, so when you're talking about, like, oh, people are it's like September and people are finally getting that, no, we're not going in. And I'm just like,
it took them forever. Like it was the silliest. Every month they were like, we're still assessing. We're still obsessing. We're assessing the situation. I'm like, the situation is, not to be crass, but seriously, the situation is at one point in New York, they had, so sadly, because the numbers were so high, started putting refrigerators in Central Park to put people that unfortunately had succumbed to their illness.
I saw those pictures and I just started crying
It
because
was
it's just
so
like,
sad. Like living, I don't think like people really get like living in New York through all of this. None of it was normal. And then you had like a lot of people that could afford it, like left. Child, again, certain people can be very dense. My boss was like, he had like went traveling, he had went around. He's like, why don't you leave? And I'm like, I paid for this apartment. Like you want me to pay another rent? Like where's that money coming from? Is it coming from you? I'm curious.
it's just, it was just crazy to me because it's like, okay, well, somebody who works an office job, September, and their bosses were finally coming to the idea that people were like working from home was going to be the reality of the situation. I'm just like,
yeah, no, I feel
so
you.
yeah.
Well, thank you for calling in, Jace.
Thank you for having me.
Child, we go get through one way or another. It's gonna be an interesting summer. That's what I've mentally prepared myself for. An interesting summer where I will have my mask on and I will be keeping my feet away from people. But I will still be outside because child 200 square feet is not meant to be inside this whole time. You get what I'm saying?
Nope.
It's really not. But I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. Thank you for always having me.
Of
And
course.
it's just like,
I'll catch
I'm getting my
you listen.
bye.
Listen, when you
I'm
get
getting
that class action envelope in the mail, I'm just saying. You might want to read it.
Oh, I will. I will.
There you go. I'll catch you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Things coming up on the horizon. We what's his name? Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, is getting sued by a SoundCloud rapper. So that should be interesting. I started reading that lawsuit. The man is doing everything. The man is suing everyone. I mean, it's going to be interesting. What I haven't read through it enough to form an opinion. So we're going to do that video, and then I owe y'all a student loan update video, which as of today, because I made a payment, I'm filing the 220s. And yes, if you don't watch my student loans, you heard that right, $220,000. Yes. Your girl started at $304,000. So I'm making progress, but it is painful. It is really painful. Oh, yes. How do you onboarding virtually during a pandemic is super awkward. I did it. I'm trying to think how many people do I know have done it. I've known a few people that have done it. I've done it. My really good friend Francis, who we used to work together, did it. Gabriel, my boyfriend, has done it as well. And we all have like the same feedback, which is even if you have a really good team, like I really like my team. It's still like, it's weird virtually because like you don't know how to pick up on like somebody's personal cues, anything like that. So I think it just takes a lot of realizing like, okay, it's not me. There's also no like chit chat. So I joined because I am an all male team. I've joined an all male team because I'm a lawyer. That's what I meant to say, child. I'm tired. Because I'm a lawyer and I work in tech, it's usually, it's very male dominated. It's very white. So I'm usually just one of a kind. But yes, I joined an all male team and I realized I don't think that they had like, because most of them had started virtually as well. So it was very like, okay, very friendly, very nice, but very like, okay, let's get to business. So I think, like a little feminine energy came in. They realized like, oh, like we can ask how everybody is doing and like what's going on, like things like that. So I think that that's been positive. And it's funny because they like chit chat with me. So like that has been really nice. But it did take like a couple weeks for me to just kind of be like, so how are you? How are your kids? Like, because that's not like inherent. I think in the virtual setting, we've lost like the personal touch, the personal like, oh yeah, these are my coworkers. Like we talked about this last time, like maybe or maybe not. They're not necessarily my friends yet, or maybe they're not going to be. Like that's fine too. But like you've spent a lot of time with them. So I think that is definitely something if you're going to onboard virtually. Child, it's been a week. I should tell you about this week. If you're going to onboard virtually, something to be cognizant of, because at first, if I hadn't have known for my friend and then for my boyfriend, I would have taken it super personally. Like, oh, well, I have no one to talk to, no one to chit chat with, and nobody wants to ask me about my day. Like, I feel a way about it. Like, because they told me that, like, there is no socialization unless you have to really try. So, like, my boss and my team has made a good effort where now, like, we have a happy hour. So, like, we can get to know each other. Because, like, how else would you get to know anybody unless you're like, okay, well, we're not going to do work right now. So I would say something to keep in mind, though, virtual, regardless of company, you will work way more hours. So set your boundaries. That's the lesson I'm having to relearn because we're a little bit understaffed. Set your boundaries, because then you don't have time for the things that make that are important to you. Like last month, I apologize, but very apparently, there are less. That's the least amount of videos I've ever posted. Usually it's like 2-3 videos a week, but I was like, I'm swamped. So like I'm doing what I can, and I was just tired. I was like, I'm just tired. I just was kind of burnt out, feeling like a way. So I think it's important to just set your boundaries with people and be like, listen, okay, yeah, if we have to get something done, like I'm happy to get it done, team player, but boo-boo, we can't have a fire every day. Like, what is this, hell? Like, we're not doing this. But yeah. Virtual happy hour is less awkward than you think. It's less awkward than you think. So at first, I would say, like, you're like, oh, this is like super awkward. But then, like, once you have a little wine, you're like, oh, I don't care. It's fine. It's whatever. And then you feel a little bit better. It's just because you're cute. Thank you, Liberated Life. But yeah, ciao. Last month I felt so bad. I was like, oh, the content is drying up. I felt so bad. I would love to host eventually, like proper television, like whatever. I would love to do that. Like there goes my secret goal that I'm telling y'all. So, you know, one day, maybe, hopefully. I think that would be a lot of fun, which is why I keep doing the lives. I feel like it's good practice. Plus, I also like talking to y'all, which is why I try to answer most of the comments, if not all of them. It's only on the videos when people start getting carried away, then I stop looking at them. Like that Dave Ramsey, the original Dave Ramsey video. Woo! The angriest commenters are on that Dave Ramsey lawsuit video, child. Oh, and it's funny because they'll start the comment with, as a Christian. And I'm like, see, you're giving Christians a bad name because now you're talking outside of your mouth, acting crazy. So thank you guys. You guys are so kind. But yes, I appreciate all of you. And this was lovely. And so I will see y'all next Thursday. Oh, I did have a question. For these, do you guys prefer that we do? So I know like we've done basically both. And now we've done 5 of them in a row, which kudos to y'all for showing up. Exactly. As a Christian, not with that attitude. That attitude is not Christ-like. Listen, I'm going to say this really quick and I'll probably delete it out so it's not in the recording. I started getting super bold. So y'all should follow me on Instagram because sometimes I will literally fuss them out. And so I started being like, oh, y'all want to act buck with me? I'm going to get buck with you. So they would say wild stuff to me. So I would say like whatever sassy thing to them, and then I would block them. So they would see it, but they couldn't respond. And then I would post it on Instagram. And it was petty, but it made me feel better. So if you want to see petty things, you can go follow my Instagram at Wine and Chill. Also, I say this every time I mention the Instagram. I'm going to do better with the Instagram. I am going to start posting more content on Instagram. Specifically, I have decided that I am going to do like all of the finance content over on Instagram because I know you guys, some of you are super interested in the finance content. I think the finance content lends itself a little bit better to Instagram. So because sometimes it's not like a full video's length. It's shorter. We're going to still do like the law school check-ins on YouTube, but there are a lot of like small like things I've learned that would really fit in a reel, I think. And I've slowly learned how to do it. I think, child. A lot of I think, because I have to preface this with we'll see. But I think we're going to do that. So head over there. So, oh, these flowers, aren't they pretty? These flowers are from the bodega. Aren't they cute? So I haven't posted it yet. I'm trying to basically entice some sponsors. So I did a whole like content shoot like at 6:00 in the morning in the park this week. And these were the flowers I used. So you should go to Instagram so you can see these pictures that I worked really hard on. And they're very cute. So yes, given to your West Indian urges to cost people. It's there. So go over to the Instagram and do that. And then you'll get to see all that. So my goal is I would love to get obviously some sponsors so I can pay my student loans, but some sponsors that are like doing good in the world. Like I would love some Black owned wine sponsors. So that's my goal. I'm hopeful. I have made like some nice connections. So hopefully they like the pictures. They look really good. They do. I'm going to give myself the props. So go to the Instagram so you can see them because there's no reason for them to be on YouTube. But yeah, I was asking y'all, do y'all like the chit chat and we can have like a story time, or do you like when we go through the lawsuits, like certain lawsuits, how we've done on the live? Let me know. Yes, get an IG. I promise I'm gonna do some content. I know I've been saying it, but now I've like made up my mind. I think I know like the direction. I didn't understand like the direction of it. I was like, I don't know what to do with this thing. So now I know what to do with it. So you should go to IG. It'll be like nice quick hits. I'm gonna try post to stories like every weekday at least, and then do like some posts, mostly finance things, I think. Instagram don't care about lawsuits and like sensible topics, child. So I'll leave the sensible topics to YouTube. But finance is a sensible topic. But I mean, any type of like social justice or any type of lawsuit material, I don't think that would work really well on Instagram. I could test it out, but maybe a shorter law part. I like the lives either way in the lawsuits modes. Okay, we can still do that. It's interesting because certain lawsuits, I'm like, this deserves its own video. And then certain lawsuits, I'm like, oh, we could talk about it live and see, but okay. And then some weeks, child, no one is suing anyone, which is great for the world because lawsuits are antagonizing, but not good for me because then we can't talk about it. So, yes. Oh, The Big Shot. Yes, you were telling me about this, James. Okay, I'm going to watch it. Well, I appreciate you guys. Oh, wait. So I have, Kareen, I have TikTok, child. Listen, when I tell you I really don't understand how that thing works, there are 2 posts on there. There are 2 because I'm really confused as to how the TikTok works. Like a real like, wow, what is this? Like, So yeah, I think to be honest, I'm just going to be honest with y'all. If you follow the Instagram, you probably don't have to follow the TikTok because I think I'm just going to reuse the content. Don't tell anybody else that, but y'all know that. Okay? Just going to be honest because there's no way. There's no way we're going to do both. So I think we'll do that. You like the lawsuits, GRTV? Okay, cool. Well, good night. Good night, CC Funk One. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. So I will see you next Thursday, but I'll see you sooner than that in a video coming up. So we're gonna get back into our entertainment lawsuits now that we have a good one with lots of receipts, including screenshots of social media, which you know we love. Pettiness. You guys have a good weekend and stay safe. I'll see you guys later.